going to do this. Yes, this is what we're doing. I'm excited about it. I'm thinking about zhuzhing this one. We'll see how I feel once I get through most of it. We're using a grunge, which is absolutely gorgeous. And it's the 30150, and it's going to go with the Floralicious. I've got 2 jelly rolls of this. It's gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Let's get to it. So this pattern was originally made for fat quarters. And so I'm going to throw in 2 fat quarters that I've cut for funsies. And I'm going to cut one the way that it says for cutting chart 1, and then I'm going to cut one for cutting chart 2. And then I'm just going to add in some extra fabrics that I purchased, and then I'm going to do the jelly rolls. So this is the first fat quarter, and I'm just going to turn it sideways this way, and I am going to begin cutting strips. So this is all cut using the cutting chart number 2. And so I've got 2 of each of what I need. So I'm going to just start stacking them. And all of this will equal 1 fat quarter. So this is 1 fat quarter. And this right here will be 1 fat quarter. Now I know that I need 6 of cutting chart 1 and 6 of cutting chart 2. So all of these. So these 2 equal 1 fat quarter. So I did 2 black and white fat quarters, and I used 1 in cutting chart 1 and 1 in cutting chart 2. Then I did 12 strips of that thatched fabric that we added in, and I did 2 in cutting chart 1 and 2 in cutting chart 2. Now I'm going to grab 6 random fat quarters from the fat quarter roll and add them in. I'm going to do 6 for cutting chart 1 and then 6 for cutting chart 2. I don't know that I don't know how careful I'm going to be about pulling them. I'm just going to pull. For the jelly roll strip, I just went ahead and separated it into 2 piles, trying not to have the exact same fabrics in each one. So I might have some, but for the most part, you know, half of it's there, half of it's there. There are some that are not, that didn't come with 2 of that particular print, so no worries. It's not a big deal. Now I'm just going to take all of 1. I'm going to take that and then grab 6 of each. I'm going to put it in 6s. And then we are going to use cutting chart 1 with this. So I'm going to grab 6 of these. I don't think it matters that it's all one colorway. I think it'll be fine because those are all teals. And then, yep, I think it'll be fine. Because after we cut these all up, I'm pretty sure we just go find all of the same sizes and put them all together. And it gives us a nice mix. Now that I've got all of the squares cut, I've just put them in piles. And because this is going to give a mixed, scrappy kind of look, not a big deal there. And then I went and grabbed my background rectangles. This is the large background rectangle. And I'm going to start prepping for our strip units. So to prep these, I grabbed half of the amount that I've cut, and I need to draw a line from tip to tip. And I think I'm going to use my good old friction pen to do that. And it's nice and simple, nothing special about it. We are just going to draw a diagonal line. Now, if you have that seam tape on your machine, you might be able to get away with not doing this step. There we go. And I am just going to draw this line on all of these squares. I'm going to need to pull up a chair. It took me like a strong hour, I'd say. Well, that's not true. I stopped and made a sandwich. But it took a long time to draw those diagonal lines, but it was necessary. So if you're doing it, find your husband, your significant other, your kids, and make them do it, because that was not fun. Now I'm looking for all these large background squares and all the print little squares, and we're going to sew those together. There are so many of these just everywhere, and it's a lot of counting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave these in the stacks that I have them in. I have stacks of 8. I'm going to chain stitch the stacks of 8 just to make sure that I have as much as I, because I'm not going to sit here and count all these. I don't feel like it. So I'm just going to leave them in these stacks, chain stitch, put that chain to the side, and then keep going in that way. That took me 3 minutes to do. And now I'm just going to cut them apart really quickly because these are all chain stitched. Now I don't believe that any of these seams are going to need to match up. So I'm just going to, I guess I could press it towards the dark side. So I'm going to flip that over and lay the iron on that to set the seam, and then roll it back. And that's going to be our piece. Looks cute. Nice. And again, the seam is behind the blue. Now I need to do that, what, 160 more times, I think? No, just 80. 80 more times. So we are just cooking away, and we are taking these kind of medium size. They're not the smallest, which would just be the little square. So I guess this is the small rectangle. So you've got the squares, then this size, and then another size, and then a much larger size. But anyway, I'm just taking these and putting them together and chain piecing them and just sewing down this side right here. Nice and simple and easy. So now it's time to gather your largest strip and your background squares. Now do not do like I did, which is mark 160 squares on the front. That's just wrong. Make sure that you are marking them on the back of the fabric. I am not going to cry about this. How am I going to fix it? I'm going to take it, I'm going to fold it in half like this, and I'm going to press it. I'm going to press that crease in there, and then I'll sew in the crease, and I won't cry about it. And I will also get rid of that line there. Leave it to me. So next you're going to need to grab your largest strips here and 20 of your, well, it depends on what size you're doing, and your diagonal drawn squares. Now make sure you draw your diagonal line on the back of the fabric, the wrong side of the fabric. I didn't, and I sat there for an hour, and that just makes me sad. But I'm just going to take them and put a little finger crease in them. I could take it over to the iron and press it. And that way I can see the crease, and then I can still sew on the line. Not the biggest deal ever. It's important that these sets be together. So that is why you are going to cut these now down. You just want to be sure that it's a continuous look. So that's our first cut. Now I'm going to take this guy and put this right on top, and I'm going to sew directly on that line. So for this next section, you want to grab all of your longest strips, and it's important that these strips all stay together. So the first thing you're going to do is grab a strip, and you're going to subcut it. And again, don't do this ahead of time, just go on ahead and do it now, because again, you need this to stay with this for the look that we're going for. Then you're going to take one of your diagonal squares. Make sure you draw all your lines on the back of the square, not the front of the square like I did. But no worries, that's a simple fix for me. I want to cry about it, but I'm not. I'm just going to finger press a line right down the center, and now I can see it. So this goes together like this. I'm going to take it, and I am going to put this background square atop it and sew on that line. Now that I've sewn directly on that line, I'm going to grab this ruler, and I'm going to put that 1/4 inch mark right on the line. And then I'm going to cut away. That is scrap. Then we are going to press this open. So I'm just going to do a quick wood iron press. Now that we have this square here done, we can put that to the side. We're going to grab another one of these marked diagonals, and we're going to place it right sides together here, and you're going to sew from this tip to this down here to this center, directly on the line. We are going to do the same thing, and we are going to put this here and trim away the excess. We're going to grab a background square with no line and put it on the back side here and stitch it to this unit. Now we're going to take that background square, and we are just going to put it just like this. And sew right here down this side, and that will be done. And that is our finished unit. And so we can put that, this is unit C, so we can put that to the side. We are working on strip unit D, as in dog. And I have snowballed this side. And now we just need to sew a plain square without the diagonal line onto the backs of all of these. So I have my piles divided up again, And I'm going to put 2 of these to the side and the rest of these all together. And I'm going to start working on E as in Edward. And for that one, it's going to look the same as we just did, except for instead of sewing a plain piece on the back end, you're going to sew it on the front. So we're going to take one of these strips and we'll take a diagonally marked line. And turns out because of the friction bleaching this a little bit, I can see the line through, so I didn't have to remark them. And I'm going to put it on this corner, and I'm going to sew from this corner to this corner, the same way that we did before. And this is for E as in Edward. Now I'm going to take these smaller strips, these are the smallest ones that we have, and do the same thing. This is going to be for F, and F is going to get a diagonal sewn line. We're going to flip and stitch it the same way that we've been doing it, from the top right to the center. And then it's going to get a plain square on the front and on the back, okay? And that's for F. So this was F, and we have these all completed, so those are cool. This is with the little short strip in between. Now we are finally making it to G. So G, we're going to take the medium-sized strip right here, and we're going to do something a little different. We were sewing from top right to the center here a lot, but we're going to change the direction of this. So we're going to go this way, and we're going to sew from this angle of this square. It's going to be the top left down to the bottom right, and that way when we flip it, we'll have the background color at the top right hand side. And that's only for F, as in, oh no, that's only for G. I'm sorry, that's the G strips. After we sew from this corner, we're going to attach a blank one without the diagonal line to the front of this strip, and then all of our strips will be done. So we're still on G, and these are the medium strips, and now I'm just going to take them and sew a blank right on the front of it. Nice and easy. These are all the strips that you will need to bring it all together. So we've got strip A, B, C, D, E, F, and then G. And these here are where it gets a little tricky, because you've got your snowball here, your snowball here, your snowball here, your snowball there. You've got your blank squares there, some back here. So just, I get it if you need to slow down, if you need to pause it. So this is A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Now I'm going to start putting these in configurations to making the blocks, the quadrants. So let's start with quadrant 1. So for our first quadrant, we're going to go A, B, C, B, but we want to make sure that these are correct and in the right orientation. So when you're building this quadrant, make sure that it makes sense. So you know that this needs to touch this, not the other way around. Otherwise, the block isn't going to make sense. Remember, you're building a log cabin, so you can kind of see the fabric graduate as it goes. So I'm just going to sew all these together and build 20 of these. Nice and easy, nothing, you know, I'm just going to, nothing to match up, just swoop, 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 and then we're done. So for quadrant number 2, we've got G, F, B as in boy, and A. So it goes kind of like that. And these are going to come together. This last one is A, B, D, E. And this makes up quadrant 3 and quadrant 4. You just rotate it differently. So again, that's A, B, D, and E. And you want to see this diagonal line right here. And you can kind of see the stair step with the fabric. So as you can see, these two quadrants are identical. You can see that diagonal line. And these are actually lining up really well. I do not enjoy pressing seams open, but honestly, the best way probably to get the best results is to press everything open, including the guys right here. Just press everything open. I'm pressing all the seams open in the back, so that will just help me out. And this is what it will look like when it comes together, which is just beautiful. I am obsessed with these colors and how it's coming out. Obsessed. So again, this is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, and quadrant 3 and 4 are identical. You're just going to rotate it this way. And I am going to do the staggered layout. So I can't put together all my quadrants like this. Some of my quadrants will be, actually the first one will look like this, but the next one that comes in will be a little different. I will start with this guy right here as opposed to starting with this one, and I'll rotate. But this looks beautiful. I love it. So now that I have finished piecing everything, I have tons and tons of stacks to play with and figure out which one I want to go where and all that kind of stuff, which is fine. But I've decided that I'm going to give this a little zhuzh. I'm going to make it my own. And I'm going to add some borders with some embroidery. Now, this by itself is just a very cool quilt, but I'm going to tweak it a little bit. I'm going to play with it. So I'm going to put all these to the side, and I'm going to go grab some fabric. And the type of embroidery that I'm doing is machine embroidery. And I have purchased some applique, some fabric for applique. I hope I got enough. I think I do. I think I have enough. So the first thing I'm going to do is prep my applique fabric, which is this fabric that you see right here. And I'm going to put some fusible webbing on the back of it. I'm going to use my Go Accuquilt cutter to do this. Actually, I think the Go is the little one, but anyway, I'm going to use my tiny, I'm going to use my Accuquilt to do this. And this is the feather border, and it should come out looking something like this. So we'll see how I do. I don't know. And hopefully, again, I've gotten enough fabric. I think I have enough. I think I have plenty to do what I need, but we'll see. So I've taken my fabric and I have ironed Heat and Bond to the back of it, which is the purple Heat and Bond light. Then I take it and I put my fabric, some of it I put face down, some of it I have face up. So I make sure that they're opposites of one another. I put this mat on, which is not the right size, but it does work. And I send it through my machine, and it cuts out all of the light gray shapes that you see there. And it has this on the back, right? So that's kind of what I've been doing. And now I need to prep my background fabric. So to prep my background fabric, I have a piece of tearaway stabilizer here. And I am going to mark it according to the instructions. It tells me how far to mark over, and I'm basically creating a grid for placement. I'm doing a placement grid right now. Now that I have all my placement lines here, I'm going to just write top and bottom. I marked center. Left is going to be to my right, and right is going to be to my left. And now I'm going to base this to the back of my fabric. So this is my fabric, and I'm going to try to center it the best I can. This stabilizer is larger than the fabric, which is what I want. And I'm just going to try to center it the best that I can. It doesn't really, I mean, a little bit it matters, but And then I'm going to pin like the dickens and then sew on the lines that I've drawn. After you have marked your lines, you're going to just sew directly on the line with your sewing machine, which gives you a beautiful basting stitch that you can see on the front of your fabric, right? So this is all basted down to the stabilizer, nice and secure. Again, all I did was throw a 5mm, 6mm, 4mm stitch just to baste it on that grid. Next thing I'm going to do is grab some stabilizer and stabilize this hoop. Now I'm going to take my hooped stabilizer and plop it into my machine. No fabric on there, nothing, just the stabilizer in the hoop. Now I'm over here and I'm just going to grab my file. I'm doing the 48-inch border, and then I just have to find which section I need to use. I've already done the left section, so I'm going to go ahead and grab the right section. And that is the design. Now I've asked the machine just to stitch out my placement stitch for me. Nothing super special happening here, but it's really interesting what's going to happen next. This is my wool pressing mat. This one has rubber on the back. But I'm going to stick it underneath here just like this. So the left side of this is just a touch shorter than the right. So I kind of know the orientation versus the way that it was in the computer. So I'm going to grab my fabric and I'm going to float it. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to take this cross right here and I'm going to stick a pin through it so that I know where the center mark is. And then I'm going to find that same center mark under here and stick this through. And that way I know where center is. So that's straight up and down. Perfect. I'm going to do the same thing with this cross here. I'm going to stick a pin through it. And then find the crosshair right there. And stick that pin straight down. Till it can't go any further. And now I know that this is kind of where my fabric needs to be. Then I'm going to do some little peekaboo moves here. And I'm going to stick a pin here. And if I stick a pin straight down, I can see that it's dead where it's supposed to be on that little line there. Now that I have 6 pins in, I'm going to secure it. I'm going to secure mine with these sew type magnets. Some people tape it. It just depends upon the size of it, really, what you want to do. And if you do this, you have to be sure that you get this out of the sewing field. You do not want your needles to hit this. Now we're doing what's called the placement stitch. So here I have been working with this, but it was much neater before, but I have all my pieces numbered. When you take them out of your machine after you cut them, be sure to number them according to the schematic guide that's given to you by the pattern. The pattern tells you what piece is what. And so then you're just going to find your shape. I know this is shape number 9. And I'm going to find the space for shape number 9, which is right here. I'm going to remove the backing. And then we are going to put it down here and iron it in place. I've decided to add some kisses of color here and there. The way that the pattern is set, you can do light, medium, and dark and whatnot, but you know me, I'm always doing something a little weird. So I've added some kisses of just black and white stripes here and there, and so I'm going to put that down. And again, I'm using my little baby Cricut here to iron in place. It works really well. I mean, really well for this. After you have all your pieces laid out, you just go ahead and push this down for a few seconds, and it fuses it down immediately. Now, I have my pressing mat underneath here. Don't think that I'm doing that on my countertop. So then I placed it right back in the machine, and I'm letting it stitch the satin stitch around it. And here we are. This is what it looks like when it's all stitched out. Now, she has an option to have some stitching done in these shapes too, but I chose not to do it on these side borders. And that's that. So I'm going to pull this out and keep going and finish it up. So now that we have our borders done, so this is the, I guess it's really this way. That's the top of the, no, it's not, that's wrong. That is wrong. It goes up. There we go. And then we have this border here. So my original plan was to embed the border into the quilt. So instead of the border sitting on top, it was going to go right next and then it flow into the quilt. But that was just, oh, that was just a bad idea. It was too many ideas. It was going to look insane. It was going to look like there were feathers and then it started hearts. And that was just, then I was going to have all these leftover heart pieces. But that was my original idea because I had too many ideas in this quilt. So I'm just going to go with the idea that I had, which is to, instead of embedding them, we're still going to use the borders, but we're just going to frame them like this, which is what I wanted. I wanted it to frame this way, but we're just going to float them on top. And yes, it's going to be weird that this is off to the side, but I'm weird. So we're going to get what we're going to get. We're not going to throw a fit. I have trimmed these down to 8.5 inch blocks, both of these, and then we're going to put right sides together. So I have this piece this way, it curves up, and I have this piece which I want to sit like this, right? So I've left the stabilizer in because, well, it stabilizes the fabric. It makes it a little easier to work with. I'm going to put this directly on top and line them up the best I can. Then we're going to take a ruler, and on this bottom side, 1/4 inch from the bottom, I'm going to draw a line, just like this. I still have the basting stitches in. Then I'm going to line this up very carefully. Again, I've left the basting stitches in so I can see that this right here and this right here are on top of their counterpart. Now I'm going to jump in that 45. So right here, if I had the ruler the right way, I guess right there, I can see the 45-degree angle right here. So I'm going to go from corner to corner, and it looks like I've lined this up pretty good because it's hitting right there, and we're going to mark. Then I'm going to pop a couple of pins away from the, where are my pins? I'm going to pop a couple of pins in here away from this line where I will be sewing. But we just want to sew directly on that line. I'm going to use some stay stitches, so I'm going to start and back up a few times there and there for sure. So I forgot, they say to use a zipper foot because you're going to jump off a little bit, but I think I'll be fine. I definitely had some little bumps there because the feed dogs have that embroidery on the back of them. And I still have the stabilizer in, so it was a little chunky. So you can see that I just jumped off just a little bit. I could refine it. I guess I could refine it. It's not going to hurt it. Maybe I'll go over it one more time real quick. Alright, so I just traced over the line a bit to make sure that it looked a little bit straighter. Looks alright. Now I'm going to put this on the straight part of the line and cut away 1/4 inch. And then we will press the seams right open. I'm going to flip it over just to be sure that I did not sew on the actual embroidered design, and I did not. We're cool. Just to be sure I didn't do anything too crazy. We are going to do this, and we will do this. We just cut with courage, and now we will flip this open and do the big reveal. And there we go. There we have it. I'm going to press that seam open, and it looks good to me. Look at it. It just goes right up like that. Look at that. I was like, you know, you were doing something there. The things hit right there. Okay, so that's pretty good. And I did the same thing with the other side. And so this will go on the bottom of my quilt. So the pinks go on the bottom, the purples went on the top, and it will hug my quilt like this. And that does mean that I'm going to have to do a Y seam right here, which I don't care. Y seams do not bother me. That's why I stopped 1/4 inch before I hit this. So now I'm just going to stick my quilt in here like this and just sew down that line. I'll show you. So what we have here is the the pink side, which is actually the bottom side, which is fine. I'm going to flip this over because we want right sides together. And I am going to put this little corner right here, and I'm going to let it overhang by 1/4 inch. And when I drop my needle, I'm going to drop my needle right in that intersection right there. I should tear out the stabilizer first, but when I start sewing, I'm going to drop my needle right there, back stitch, and then go forward all the way down here. Now that I have sewn down this one here, I'm going to pinch that there and bring this up right here. And now I'm going to drop that right down in that line, in that knot again, and just sew down this side. So now I have got that all done. I need to take out these basting stitches, but you can see that they come right there to that center point, and this is right here on the diagonal angle. It's okay, I should have pressed this open. I forgot to press open the seam before I started, so it's a little bit chunky right here, but I'm not concerned about it. I just need to take out all these basting stitches and give this a press and stick a fork in it because it is finally finished.